Incoming transmission.
Well, hello everybody. How you doing? It's me, your buddy Admiral Teag, and I'm here with my friend Resolute Germ, and today's guest is my friend Jacob Ironside. Welcome to all of you, and hello to my guests. Jacob, welcome. It's your first time here on the show.
Yeah, man, good to be here. I'm looking forward to this. It was a good episode. I watched it beforehand and look forward to watching it again here.
Last time we dealt with Jeffrey Coobs, everybody was very happy to have him around. He's all but a member of the crew. He's sort of a member of that Star Trek family. And one of the most popular rumors, I guess, is the season 5 rumor that he would be a cast regular. To me, this seems only natural.
Yeah, it's one of Combs' greatest wishes to be a regular. He's a recurring so often, but he never got that regular slot.
Jacob, I just put his YouTube into the chat, and I'm going to drop his link tree in a second. And he's a great creator, and he's an awesome guy. He's a powerful leader. He's powerful leader. Yes. That meme will last forever. The Acolyte will be forgotten in like 25 years. People will still be like, he's a powerful leader. I know I am going to use that forever. Enterprise is a show that you said like right away that you actually enjoy it and were a fan of. Tell me about how you came to become a fan of it.
Well, I've been a fan since TNG, so that was early 90s. But I don't think I watched it when it first came out, but I did watch reruns of it. So yeah, probably a little bit after it came out. So after they started doing reruns. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
This show, to me, is one of the more enjoyable Star Trek shows. I found it to exist in an area where it's sort of like they've learned a few lessons from reaching too far too many times in those other two shows. And they sort of got a little talking to or something from the network. So one of our more relatable Star Trek shows, in my opinion. This show on an episode per episode basis, would you agree with this one? Kind of hits for a higher average than most other Star Trek shows. While not reaching the highs of like some of the best Deep Space Nine, it never dives to the lows of some of the worst episodes of Deep Space Nine or the worst episodes of Voyager.
Yeah, I'd say it's more grounded. It does have an episode here or there that's a little corny, but I think it stands up pretty good. Of course, I do think it gets better after season 1. The whole Xindi arc was my favorite of the series. So
fans are so divided over that one,
and it does dip down at the end. At the last season, kind of didn't end too well, but yeah, it's good. I like it.
They had a reduced budget at the end there, and if you could spare some time and some likes for Admiral Teag, we'll take you on a little trip to the final frontiers. Before we start every episode, I sort of drop all pretense, and I give the New York sales pitch and the New York summation of this episode. So we're going to talk about an episode of Star Trek Enterprise called Shadows of a Gem. All right, folks, buckle up because this one's a wild ride. The Vulcans, led by this guy Saval, go whining to Admiral Forrest, blaming Captain Archer for the incident at P'Jem. Can you believe it? Archer's done amazing work, but no, they blame him. So what do? Suspend joint operations. Done. And get this, they want to take the ball back to Vulcan. It's completely ridiculous, folks. So Archer heads to Corodan, this massive planet with huge mining agreements. And what happens? His shuttle bot gets captured by someone named Teag, whose interesting name just isn't spelled quite right for leadership. You know what I'm saying, folks? I mean, I like the guy's name, but he's got it spelled all wrong. Does the NX-01 crew just sit around? No way. Tucker and Reed say enough and mount their own rescue while Sato distracts the Vulcans. These guys are smart and tough. Then the Andorians, led by Shran, come in to help Archer. Humans and Andorians team up for a covert rescue while the Vulcans botch their own. It's pure chaos. Tensions running high, folks. And just when things look dicey, DePaul pulls off a heroic move. It's pure chaos. Your tensions are running high. In this episode, Shadows of a Gem first aired on February 6, 2002 on UPN. By the way, what was happening? The top news story that week, President Bush made his Axis of Evil speech. Big week in politics and Trek, folks. And my headphones are out. So, Germ, are you ready for a great episode while I hook into my analogs?
Yeah, this episode sounds real good. I don't remember it 100%, but that description he gave really filled in the blanks. I think this is really where probably season 1 should have ended, but they do have an unfortunate story at the end involving Suliban. Not my favorite part of the series, them focusing on the Temple Cold War. But it seems to be a habit with Enterprise. They'll have something that obviously should be the season finale, but they go on a couple more episodes.
When I started adding news searches for the week it aired, the Axis of Evil speech, famous moment in American history that week. So big time stuff going on in the country. I mean, I remember watching that speech and being like, oh, wow, that one was chilling.
I think that's the first State of the Union I actually watched.
That was pretty commanding. Do you remember that week, Jacob, at all?
Barely. Remember the Axis of Evil speech. A lot of things from the Bush administration that I think back on. Yeah.
I remember thinking this guy is really good with catchphrases. I was like, that catchphrase is going to be a source of problems for a long time. It's now history rather than politics, which is what I like about Enterprise. Is so long ago.
Yeah.
I found this show to be a respite from like a really crazy world at the time. It was a weird time to be alive, and we had at least what we thought would be just another one of a succession of Star Trek shows. I remember watching this at the time thinking, by the time we get to 2024, we'll live under an air-conditioned dome where there'll be nonstop, high-quality Star Trek and fresh hot pizza available to everyone all the time. Falling woefully short of my expectations. I thought we'd have replicators in flying cars by now. Anyone listening to this later as an upload, welcome. Jacob, what we do is after we watch the episode, we talk about it and we give it a grade. We're going to give our audience a chance to grade it too. Let's dive in and enjoy this episode of Star Trek. You will see that it is 45 minutes and 3 seconds long. It is season 1, episode 15. Actually, it's a really long season 1. It's 26 episodes, ending with Shockwave Part 1. Next week is Shuttle Pod 1, which I think is one of the more charming episodes. And then comes one of the episodes that's going to be a bit controversial, Fusion, which is a lot different from what we came to expect about Vulcans and mind melds and all that stuff. So hit the like and follow buttons.
It is not a Dragon Ball Z thing.
Oh, the mind meld?
The fusion.
Oh, fusion. Yes, I'm sorry. Jeremy, you got to jump in there. You know more about that stuff than me.
Which do you prefer? The opening title music or I think it's
Archer's theme.
Archer's theme.
Because of what ultimately happened and the fact that if this Star Trek show had like 4% more momentum, it would have endured. I guess I like Archer's theme because it's now the official song of what never was. But in my heart, I've come up with a headcanon thing for the opening song is that if you and I were to go to a baseball game at the Final Frontier, Jacob, if the three of us were to go to a Star Trek in-world baseball recreation World Series, they'd be like, please stand for our national anthem. And like, we'd all stand up and put our hands over our hearts and be like, it's been a long road. It's the Federation national anthem that you sing at baseball games and stuff. What do you think of that?
Wow, that would be funny.
But the lyrics are so good. The lyrics are so good.
Yeah, they are. They are good lyrics.
It was
I don't
already
know.
a
I
good
don't know what
song,
it
but
is.
it's as long as Stairway to Heaven. They cherry picked from all throughout this long Stairway to Heaven song, and they found the best possible take by mixing and matching the lyrics that they already had. I thought it was a great sort of Star Trek aspirational poem. Go ahead. I'm
When you
sorry.
don't hear the guy singing it, or the music's fine. It's the guy singing it that just sounds really off to me. But yeah, when you just read the words, yeah, it's really good. They did a really good job writing it.
I saw a movie called Hollywood Nights. It's got our ambassador, our Vulcan ambassador, as a Fonzie-like character. I don't know if we ever meet Captain Gardner. We hear about him a lot, though. The only other Starfleet captains we meet are Archer's girlfriend and Keith Carradine.
Yeah, Gomez, the Columbia commander.
Is that the female commander? Aren't they? She also like kind of like got a thing going with Archer.
They used to. They just reignite it a little bit while they're back on Earth.
She's the Total Recall chick, right?
I'm not sure about that part.
And of course, here we stand. Please stand for our national anthem. This song now does feel like a reminder of the good old days. Like I have good feelings when I hear it now. I gotta be honest.
The visuals of it are really good too.
You know what? It's the opening visual exceeds the opening song by a lot. I only stand for Hoshi. Gavin Blackburn has standards. I'd stand behind Hoshi. The Intrepid. Yeah, we're bringing these ships online. The NX-01 has no backup right now, though, which is part of the charm of season 1, in my opinion. Does anyone think T'Pol is as uninformed about the events on this planet as she seems to be, or is she just being stoic?
Oh, they definitely kept her out of the loop for quite some time.
Jacob, did you ever notice that we eat in every episode?
Yeah, I did. And they don't even have replicators.
They can replicate some food of some kind. That protein resequencers, you're right. But I think
Right.
then the chef is able to imbue foodness into it.
Yeah. Isn't that called tofu?
I guess it is, honestly, but it's like it's futuristic space tofu, so it tastes great, just like that orange juice tastes
Yeah.
fantastic for Florida, man.
Tastes
One
just like
possible
a
description of
Angus
this episode
steak.
would also be, if we only wrote it from Trip's point of view, would be Florida man. Florida man gets hung up on multiple times. And unlike the Voyager, the NX-01 moves fairly smoothly. The Voyager had like a FPS of like 5. Sort of strobed forward. They try to make things relatable, so we do see the crew with the camera, and we're going to mention bullets in this episode. Weird move, continuing last week's weird move and last week's conversation. Some costumes just seem to have padding in them, and others have less. And it's just her silhouette is not consistent, and sometimes it's even a little silly how stacked she is. Seth MacFarlane, if you're listening, please hire Scott Bakula for the Orville season 5.
No, so far Bakula has given New Trek the same treatment that he did the New Quantum Leap.
Yeah,
very
get lost.
respectfully told them to go screw themselves.
Yeah. By the way, we have to
Yeah.
make sure to call the bad
Yeah.
people who take control of the situation in a few minutes. We have to make sure to call them freedom fighters for reasons that'll be obvious to everyone, unfortunately.
She's not getting another assignment because it's a punishment detail.
I think what happened to Pajem has her sort of in trouble with the other Vulcans.
Yeah. She's going to be recalled and just sat down.
Using a uh, a house of worship as a listening post. Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, we seen that somewhere before. For YouTube reasons, I'm not allowed to say where, but we have seen it.
Yeah.
As George Carlin said, if a firefighter fights fires, then what does a freedom fighter fight? Paul knows she really won't be removed from Enterprise because she has logic of the heart. That is a good line, Radioactive.
They are wondering if what I'm wondering is going on. They're wondering if she's becoming a little too partial to the humans. And it kind of feeds the
we also
ongoing,
get
are the
a
Vulcans starting to change because they hang out with humans? Question.
we get a Easter egg here of a Z-95 headhunter from Star Wars. I don't know if you're familiar with that ship. Yeah, look at this ship. It looks like the Z-95 headhunter from Star Wars. Doesn't it?
Yeah, sort of does look like a headhunter and a hammerhead from Space Above and Beyond.
Yeah.
They sure do like tying her up.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. How strong are these aliens? Because T'Pol is about 4 or 5 times stronger than a human male, assuming that the strength differential holds up between species, right? Because she's Spock is 6 times stronger than Kirk. Doesn't he say that?
Something like that.
And Khan is 5 times stronger than Kirk.
And Hammerhead is the main starfighter from Space Above and Beyond. The human starfighter, anyway.
A show that had David Duchovny in it for one episode or two. But that's not on. Is that the last? That's like the last Chris Carter show before the X-Files, right?
It was actually running concurrent with the X-Files for a little bit.
This actor always plays a bad guy. Jeff Kober.
There's all sorts of military and political analogies coming to the forefront of this episode.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, unfortunately, Space Above and Beyond suffered the same fate that pretty much all sci-fi did on Fox. Your name wasn't X-Files, so they didn't really care about you.
And then they killed their golden goose by having too much X-Files and giving people X-Files fatigue. When we just had, remember, we just had too much. We had Harsh Realm, and we had X-Files, and we had the Lone Gunman, and we have the X-Files. We have an X-Files reviewer here with us. Remember when it just got to be too much Chris Carter for a little while there, Jacob?
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
I think it affected his work for the next couple of years. He doesn't get his mojo back after he has like too many shows at once, and a few of them fail, and one he gets to actually wind down a little bit. Although I'm not sure how much sense that isolated Millennium story has in the X-Files that ends his story. Well, if I'm Scott Bakula, I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like I give my best take. I would enjoy acting this out with Jolene. Anyone else? He got
I
paid
need
to do
another
this.
take, please.
Exactly. I would be flubbing lines on purpose. Anyone else?
If you're not
Oh, I
careful, you
didn't
may have
follow
a
her
little
right.
problem, and you're off to HR.
I didn't follow her right. We need to redo that.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned that some of her costumes have like padding on them. I call them X-plants, like some kind of water bra, and she's already got like probably implants. She's got something going on there. She's a very attractive woman to begin with. She's got that on top of it, and then they put more in on certain costumes, and it was almost laughable. And I have to say to myself, was it they're trying to make her look like Jerry Ryan, or I don't understand why they did that.
This is why they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but as they start to trust her more as an actress, they get smaller. In season 2, they're a little smaller. In season 3, they're smaller still, and then they kind of stay the same for the rest of the series. We sort of see what she really looks like in like episodes like Carbon Creek. By the way, why didn't DePaul take care of that?
I mean,
like I said, like she's got to be like 3 or 4 times stronger than Archer.
Done that easily.
And you would think that they would be much more afraid of the Vulcan than him, knowing the strength differential. So again, how strong are these aliens? They lifted this for the plot of Star Trek Beyond, huh? These people just are not living Federation style lives.
No.
Nope. But
to be fair, it is pre-Federation.
Yeah.
The Federation has a lot of success except for Tasha's planet.
Yeah. And rich planets like Earth rarely can understand the lesser developed planets like whatever this one was called.
So the Freedom Fighters have acquired them, and they want like a bunch of phase pistols. It's a plastic shell they glue to the clothing so it looks form-fitting. At this point, I can believe it. It's already, she's already beautiful. They went a little too far in some places.
Yeah, what about the contamination scenes?
I think the contamination scenes, the decon chamber scenes, having people eat, and using terms like bullets to talk about phase weapons and rounds is just because they were told they had become unrelatable and a little too far out, and they wanted people to talk like normal people. We've seen this Vulcan once before, right?
Yeah.
He does look familiar.
We explain him off as the sector captain.
They all look alike anyway, though.
There you go, those Vulcans.
Yeah, you've seen one set of pointy ears, you've seen them all.
It's what an Andorian
What's funny
would
is
say.
Strange, you should say that. Radioactive says, why do they need more phase weapons? Haven't the writers heard of reverse engineering? This planet's a mess. This planet is a disaster. This is a lot. We don't see a planet this dysfunctional again until either Tasha's planet or that one planet in TNG that wants to join the Federation, and Picard's like, this is our report. And he's like, well, a promising society. They're still divided and petty and angry and violent. Perhaps they will be a good addition to the Federation in about 50 years. So if they've made their biggest mistake, they've made fun of Florida Man's car. and they've made fun of Florida Man. So he's getting a little angry. You know what I mean, Jacob?
Yeah.
Yep. Florida man's gonna go Florida man on that planet.
Hi, Daniel. Yeah. Oh, he is. Radioactive, he is. They only blew up part of it. Although it does look like they got the part that I think you're in. You were on vacation that day.
It's just a new hole in Florida. It'll fill back. It'll fill up with water.
I was going to say it's now it's the Florida Peninsula Canal from Daytona to Tampa. Because doesn't it also cut through like part of South America and Ecuador?
Yeah, it goes down to Venezuela.
Yeah. And what is it, like 5 million people are killed? It's like they were like 100 light years away, and they're getting the cartoons from the 1970s, and they saw like Bugs Bunny saw his Florida off, and they're like, that's their plan. That's their greatest fear. We should do that.
The historical documents from their planet.
Exactly. It's like Lur from Futurama. Give us McNeil. By the way, this is like, I know we have to eat, but do we have to eat slop? This is like I want to remember this episode because when I make videos about what it's like being a Star Trek fan these days, it's like we've had a lot of Star Trek lately, but it hasn't been so great. We just show Archer eating this gruel.
Like, hey, they have oatmeal on this planet.
It looks so gross.
It does. Is that cattle feed?
If you think the Vulcans are in trouble now, wait about 3 more episodes to Paul gets a mind meld, and then we have to talk about how the hell is it that in Carbon Creek she seems to be inside Archer's mind, but she doesn't mind meld, begging the question, are the Vulcans somewhat telepathic? You know, Jacob, we were talking last week. Maybe this would be interesting. Get your thoughts. Since we never seem to all out go to war with the Klingons, and there's times before and after the Organian Treaty where we could, and we're clearly antagonistic towards each other. Do you think that, like, look, we've got a homing device in the gruel. It's a good thing he ate his gruel. See, this is a message from the creators of modern Star Trek. If you eat your gruel, you'll get the answer to your mystery box. But their mystery box, empty as always. But
yeah, if he had turned his nose up to it, oh, that looks nasty. I'm not eating that.
So right. The Vulcan was like, I can't eat that food. I'll feel the pain of those pieces of barley when they died. Do you think the Klingon Empire works like this? Inside of our space, if you come in, we all fight as one. But if one of our captains leaves and goes nuts, he's a free agent, like the guy at the Genesis planet. We don't know. We disavow his actions. He left the Empire. However, if he succeeded and came back with your technology, we all would have joined forces to fight you. And if they come out in mass, led by like their leader, well, that's a Klingon attack. But these low-level harassments, that's just Klingons being Klingons, and the Federation has to take them all on a case-by-case basis. Hellbilly, hello. What do you think of that thought that maybe all Klingon captains are free agents until they leave the Empire? And once they make it back, that's as much command and control as the Klingons have. What do you think of that?
They're a lot like Vikings, I would think. That's what it seems like. I mean, they have
sort of the same
all
thing,
the Vikings
right?
together, but then they go out on their own and pillage.
Right. So, like, let's just say one of these Klingons or one of these Vikings just runs up against the wrong bunch of English people, and that Viking dragon boat never comes back. We're really not going to be able to go out and exact vengeance on anybody. But if anybody chases him back to where we are, like, of course, we're going to help him out. That seems to be how the Klingon Empire works. And acceptance of the Klingon Empire seems to be something that that dawned on. But here he is, Shran, his big moment.
His shade of blue changes as the show goes on.
I
Yeah.
wonder if it's just that it's dark out, so they gave him a different makeup shade here to make him really stand out. And then they're like, we're kind of married to the new shade. We've updated his look, like the latest look of him. How do we know he just didn't get a lot of sun on Andor? Maybe he took a vacation on Andoria.
Yeah.
You know, he's a little
He would
bluer
tan
than.
blue like that.
Yeah, he's been on vacation. I've got a transmission from the plant below. Here he comes, right to the bridge. Hey, buddy. Hello, Cyrus. That's from Elder Scrolls.
It's literally on the screen. So close, but so far. How's it going, buddy?
Hi, it's good to see you. This episode consists of them being a bit curious. They're suffering the fallout of their previous actions on another mission. The Vulcans are mad as hell. They want T'Pol back. And the humans are going to stubbornly stay out there with or without T'Pol. And Captain Archer wants to go on one more mission with T'Pol. And because he'll eat anything you put in front of him, he found this tracking device. Oh, and Florida Man is running the ship as best as he can. And Cyrus, this is my friend Jacob. Jacob, meet my friend Cyrus.
Hello, Cyrus.
Howdy.
Nice to meet you.
I've got all the best people here for our Star Trek panel.
Let's just see what
So, yeah.
Archer will eat. Snails. Let's try snails. Some
I
guy.
forget where Archer is supposed to be from in the actual world. Is he supposed to be from California? He's like, I guess he lives in San Francisco area because or you get transport anywhere. But oh wait, no, we can't. He lives in the San Francisco area, I guess, because his father's at the Starfleet headquarters all the time working on that Warp 5 engine, right?
Yeah.
So Archer, if not born in, comes from California in every sense it counts. And this is weird. It's like, I'm going to go walk around low effort cosplaying as a one of these weird aliens. And these guys just drink anything you give them.
Well, yeah, they're security guards. They don't really care
Why
if you
didn't
break
they-
in. They just want an excuse.
Why didn't he
Last week-
drug it?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Flip 'em a
last
roofie.
week we saw what happened to Klingons who drink like suspicious booze.
Yeah, right.
They drank that Ferengi soda they found it out of the ship, and the captain's like, I don't know what went wrong. He's just sucking down more, and he's like, I keep getting sicker. I'm not sure why. We just saw people beating each other up, and yeah, this is TV action. Costs a lot less than shooting people with these phase pistols.
It's almost like classic audiences had better taste than modern audiences.
And
Yeah,
classic writers
look at
wanted
that.
to give you something.
That's interesting.
We've gotten a pretty smart story so far.
Yeah.
This one's operating on like a junior college level.
And there's where they spent all their money right there.
Season 1's whole budget has to be studied. Here comes UPN security. No, you can't have any more money. I love how part of this planet's like the way we go for the aliens in this planet is they just sort of have Oompa Loompa like hair.
Yeah.
They're humans, but they have Oompa Loompa like hair effects. What do you
Oh, it
think
just
of
looks
these?
like we missed Scott Bakula's birthday.
When was it?
Thursday.
Happy birthday to our Captain Archer, Scott Bakula, 63?
Low higher than that. He was born
70.
October the 9th, 1954. So he's 70 years old.
Happy 70th birthday to our pal Captain Archer. Now, is this all Andorians or just Shran who has this mob debt thing?
Did Shrek come out before Enterprise by any chance?
Sorry, Cyrus, what's that?
I don't
I
know.
was saying, did Enterprise come out before Shrek or Shrek before Enterprise? This looks like
The
blue
original-
Shreks with white hair.
Well,
Out
this
at the same
alien,
time.
these aliens have been established. They just didn't have the cool antennae that were able to articulate. They were sort of like they were segmented, but they were stationary, and they kind of look like they could have been horns. But this, I guess, was their vision. I thought it was cool to see them again like this. Why the slow mo here? This was one little weird. Director had a strange choice.
He was inspired by what's his name? Slow-mo.
And everybody's trigger discipline. Everybody didn't just start wildly shooting when the aliens shot.
Yeah, right.
And per your question, Cyrus, Shrek came out a few months earlier than the first episode of Enterprise.
And this is probably written in advance, most likely.
Yeah.
So you get Shrek and then Space Shreks. Neat.
I'm waiting for Trip to be like, Doc, I'm going to a nightclub on the next planet we go to. Can I get some of them drugs?
He might need some when he gets back from that nightclub.
Yeah, right. He's not like Kirk. He can't go to the replicator and be like, give me the hangover cure.
Yeah. Yeah, you go to a replicator, 6 ounces of cocaine.
Non-addictive. Give me the give me some synth crack. It's much like regular crack, but the effects are easily dismissed.
Yeah. I think they needed to use the doctor's way he puffs up his face a lot more.
That's okay. They didn't think of that until season 3.
They do it twice this season. It's been done twice. One in Doctor's Day, which is the most controversial episode. The free agent Klingon thing seems to have popularity.
Yeah, that does fit their society.
It also explains how we can avoid all-out war with them. It's like, look, it was only 2 Klingon captains, and they're like, well, that's coordination. It's like, it's just a small bandit fleet of smaller ships.
Yeah, I think it was to in this time, if the Earth went to war with the Klingons, they would win. So
Easily.
I think it was just for this show to make it where we won't go to full war with the Klingons, just little scuffs here and there with certain Klingons.
But Istophobos points out correctly that they have a certain amount of deniability at high command level. They can be like, look, we told you we have a pirate-like society. You said we could go on living like we wanted to. Part of how we live like we want to is if our guys leave and want to go crazy and take over a planet, that's their thing, man. It's what they're going to do. And if you want to stop them, we don't care because they're outside our space. But if they expand our empire, we might start to back them. We create governors when we can. We don't pretend to be like non-expansionist.
Yeah, they're
If they have
roughly
some
like
war we're looking for, we'll
loose
back 'em.
confederation.
They have like a mob war to cement their federation like in 120 years in TNG.
Make her look like a Vulcan. She's actually pretty.
Well, we've walked away from stuff like greenish Vulcans. Like Spock has looked fairly like non-greenish for a long time at this point. And that seems to be like left behind the aesthetic of all their Star Trek. There we go with this week's episode. And I thought it was a banger with a great Star Trek guest star, Jeffrey Combs. And now we get down to the fun part of it. couple of minutes of open discussion. So Jacob, tell me, we just watched Shadows of a Gem. Give me your take. A few words. How do you feel about it?
I think it was a very well put together episode. A kind of a sequel to the what is it, the Andorians incident or something like
The
that.
first one is the Andorian incident.
Yeah.
And this one is Shadows of a Gem, which is the planet it takes place on. To refresh our audience's memory, in the episode, the Andorian incident, what happened is we go to a Vulcan monastery just because Archer is curious. And Archer does these things. And welcome, everybody. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here. Archer went to this planet called the Gem, where the Vulcans have sort of like, it's attached a bit to their religion. It's also sort of attached a bit to the edge of their empire, or the edge of their area of their sphere of influence, I guess they would view it. And the Andorians are like right there, kind of next to them. And on top of having a monastery there, they had installed some top secret listening devices and put in a few secret agents among the monks. And a lot of people were saying that was one of the first episodes to do Vulcans really, really dirty. And I'm saying, like, Broken Bow, they're jerks. But in this one, the actions of the Vulcans was a little difficult to assess. The spying made sense, but the way that they acted and the way they tried to cover it up, and you can't have it that way. Yeah, there's got to be guys who end up in it's like, my son is in the Vulcan Science Academy. What is yours doing? He's in the espionage service. It's noble work. You know what I mean? Like, they talk about it like maybe the Peace Corps or something in Vulcan.
Yeah,
he's out there keeping the people on Corden from being too free and making emotional mistakes. They're a very emotional race, and he's doing the right thing. And it's like, I understand. We're all proud of your son. It's kind of like, so my thing is there might be mundane Vulcans too, and they end up being like the Vulcan monks, and they end up being your Vulcan espionage guys. James,
Yeah,
you think
that doesn't
so?
happen until the end.
About that comment you got on the screen right there, when I think of that comment plus the colors I saw at the end, all I could think of was pretty much every DC movie ever.
We had some strange directions. I don't know. This one, maybe we don't have the director back. That scene with the slow-mo, no, and like DePaul jumps in the way of the phase of the bolt, and we called that a proton bullet. I don't know why, or a photon bullet. I don't know which one it was. This was a pretty good episode, though. All right, so guys,
that username.
I
love that username.
Alabama Hellbilly. I love all the usernames.
Yeah.
We have some great ones. Alabama
The
Hellbilly.
shame is I can't see what the icon looks like without being on YouTube right now, and I'm too tired to take a look. But if the icon matches the name, good for you.
I would say so. It's like a ginger dead voodoo doll with long hair. When I make the upload, I'll make sure to leave it in so you can see it.
You gotta have like a pickup and a PBR and stuff.
Yeah, shout out to everybody who comes through later and watches the uploads. So the audience is so far, we got 10 votes really quickly. Please make sure to vote. We got A 50%, B 30%, C 18%, and it's changing as we speak. Looks like 55% for A. So what we do is we usually give the episode an A through F grade, and we talk about maybe anything that might stand out to us, anything we think is important. While I get ready to beam up my friend JT, we're going to ask you to grade the episode A through F, and give your thought and why. Let's just first welcome JT. Here he is. It's JT. Hello, JT.
Hello, hail, good evening. Sorry about that. There was some atmospheric interference this evening.
Ion storms happen.
I blame the Decepticons.
A shitload of rain.
Have all your fingers. Just to make sure.
Yes. It was highly illogical trying to get home.
Well, listen, we're gonna let Jacob give his thoughts, because I know in about 20 minutes he has a hard out.
A pretty solid episode. The pacing was good. It wasn't too slow or anything. I thought it was a good storytelling. So I'd give it for season 1. I'd give it an A.
All right. Any high points aside from just the jealousy that Scott Bakula got paid to do that scene with DePaul?
Yeah,
Anything that
right.
stood out to you? Anything that stood out for
Well,
later?
Shran showing up was good.
That is a highlight. Shran
That
showing
is,
up was great.
yeah. Uh, Season 1 to me, the crew kind of need to calm down a little bit. They seem to be like at the drop of a hat mad. It's kind of bothered me, but it's fine. It's just the show. But yeah, this was a good episode. I liked it.
I wonder if the overly emotional responses we sometimes get from the crew of the NX-01 might not have something to do with the fact that some of those episodes of Voyager that just don't, add up. So I think that maybe they might have overcorrected on some things, caused some of the problems here.
Yeah.
And
Well,
here's
at
JT
least
making
they
his
still
initial contact.
followed the chain of command and respected it. Not like the unmentionable new stuff. Star Trek.
I gotta be. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know
Sure.
what? James Caserta's made this comment twice. This particular episode of Star Trek, it was kind of very colorless, very bleak. It didn't have the most exciting soundtrack.
Right.
It was like still a good episode, but our set was corrugated metal. It's good, solid action TV, but that part of the Star Trek story was directed a little weird. I thought that maybe they were a little weak with their action direction, but the story was really good. But what do you think of the idea that this was bleak and colorless as far as a Star Trek episode goes?
I, by and large, part would agree with that. I think this is
creeps
kind of
in.
a downer episode for me in a lot of ways.
What is the downer aspect?
I feel like Starfleet kind of grabs its head in its hands a little bit, or sticks its tail between its legs, and it's beginning when he heads home because the fleet sharing initiative is ended. I don't know. It doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. Like this whole thing just doesn't have that feel. Like when I think of TNG, I watched a lot of season 1 this week. Does not feel like season 1 of TNG. Does not feel like TOS.
In some ways, thank God though, because that season 1 of TNG, they bail it out later because they realized that their first 2 seasons had those limitations. They sold the show that way. So like a lot of those episodes were set up to be called back on later in ways that you didn't need to see the first episode. But when
Right.
you saw it again on the rerun, like especially when you got to the point where they were rerunning the TNGs before the new TNG, like 4 seasons in, and you would see an episode that you had seen like a couple of seasons earlier, and the uniforms are tangibly different. And you're realizing the show has changed a little bit. And you're like, then the next episode would remind you of maybe one you'd seen a couple of years earlier. And you'd be like, in this one, it seemed like they really wanted to save money this week. We're going to fire a lot of phasers, so we're going to have a crappy set. The bad guys layer was crappy.
Not only that, one of my big problems with this episode comes right early on, straight in the beginning, where the Vulcans have this military site hidden behind a religious site, right? And so they should get what they get for doing that, right? They were exposed for that kind of thing, which I don't care what species you are, that's poor form. But then they try to blame it on the humans. And to me, that seems illogical and borderline emotional. That was all handled, and the response to it was, well, we're just not going to cooperate with you anymore because, your ship just happened to be the one that unveiled all this. This seems like a very irrational, emotional response to all of this, and very not Vulcan of it. So, and then you get this whole kind of downer thing about just the Enterprise and the relationship between Earth and Vulcan and all of this because the, writers, I feel like, failed to understand what they were doing here.
Why didn't DePaul just grab some of these people and throw them into the sun? Because she's like 5 times stronger than Archer. Why is he the one doing all the fighting?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we kind of forgot about the fact that the stronger person there is actually DePaul.
It is a good point. I mean, they never really played that off in the first season to date, but yeah, we should know that, right?
I don't think we ever see her use her semi-super strength, but then again, like Spock didn't display it super frequently either. She's always going to be an intellectual first, and I don't know, like maybe it's uneven, like across the species. It's like in Vulcan, like Vulcan women are only about 1/3 as strong as humans. It's the males of Vulcan who are 5 times stronger.
I don't know
the women
about
of
that
Vulcan
either.
are only 1/3 as strong as the men of Earth. Technology is frustratingly inconsistent. In this, they seem to try to like make it seem like they're a couple of steps behind everyone else, but at the end of the day, it does seem to feel like, what's the difference between the grappler and the tractor beam? Both of them are equal fail rate. What's the difference between warp 5 and warp 9? You get there at the speed of the plot. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to get Star Trek is what I think is the most important thing.
It's kind of weird that they don't upgrade stuff like the tractor beam. Like they don't like replace the grappling hook with a tractor beam.
Well, that is used as a plot point quite a lot.
Yeah.
The only problem with the grappler at this point is that how come it can't say be aimed with AI so it never misses? It misses too much. Like we let Mr. Mayweather fire the grappler too much. So turn on the AI grappler program, Mr. Mayweather. It's like, can I please fire it myself? No, Mayweather, you've been missing a lot lately. We're going to turn on the AI. But sir, it's 21st century technology. Yeah. Firing things is hard.
2001 technology. That's the important part. Can't judge it off of 2024 technology. You have to judge it off of 2001 technology.
I agree. Their tech level is not below the level of their time. However, like now, like they've eclipsed it, and they didn't make it as far in the future as a lot of Star Trek ideas. So they failed to see into the future. It's not an indictment. It's just when they do it, it's great. When it doesn't happen, we have to kind of point it out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
I kind of see JT's point. You can kind of do it this way with at least the humans. They're not Starfleet yet, and you could kind of explain it away with them not being Starfleet because it's not Starfleet yet. But the Vulcans have been around for a lot longer and have been spacefaring a lot longer. So
at least 1,800 plus years, because the
right.
Romulans left 1,800 years ago in warp ships.
Right. So that kind of didn't fit with other Star Trek shows. But yeah, I kind of see his point about that.
Do me a favor, Alabama Hellbilly. Put the link to get that book in the chat if there's a way for people to do it. The average book sells only 600 copies. We have a guy here who's written a book. He's a new author. He's trying to do the right thing. I bet you the book. Here you are. Oh, he's put in the link for us. You have absolute permission to do that if you're a creator. Anyone trying to give away an Xbox in my name, that is fake, and I'll put that shit to that right away. Stop that right away. But this is fun. I want to see if there's any questions I need to ask you to get a read on or anything, because I know we're up against it for you and I don't want to keep you longer than you have to. So I'm wondering if there's any, I'll let you have the whole rest of your 8 minutes to go with this one. Friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice seem to come together to make the best Final Frontier stories. Is it just me? What do you think, Jacob? The best Star Trek stories seem to have doses of friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice, which we saw today in this story, right?
Yeah, and a hopeful future too has always been a good Star Trek.
Yeah.
They with the whole J.J. Abrams movies and stuff, they did a darker future, and it just was not Star Trek. because of it. And that's a really big part of Star Trek is the hopeful future and going where no man has gone before. So yeah. Yeah,
You're exactly
along with
right.
what you listed and a hopeful future.
A lot of people are saying this one came up a little short as far as the amount of story and stuff. I think we had such a heavy story a couple weeks back with Dear Doctor, with all the implications and all the things. It was a great episode. And then for these next 2 weeks, we've just tried to have like action and adventure and fun. So
if you're comparing this episode to Enterprise, this series, it's a pretty good, it's a good episode. But if you compare it to other like TNG or Deep Space Nine or even the original series, yeah, it's not the best, but it's the best of this series, at least season one. So
honestly, last week I gave it the episode an A+, and I took it out of the supercut, but it's in the full cut of the watch party where I say it's an Enterprise A+, which is the same as like a TOSB. You know, like a
yeah,
Voyager, like Enterprise A+ is B+ on the original series, maybe maybe a B. We don't reach those heights again, except for if there's a few TNG episodes that are as good or better than TOS episodes, but those original episodes are really, really good.
no, hey, Klingons are space Vikings. Okay, there you go.
We're gonna put that down. That's going to be the lead of this week's episode of this week's Star Trek Enterprise discussions. Our Klingon Space Vikings. All right. Let's see. We'll do a few chats, and you gave it an A+. Space Cop, when done right, doesn't really hurt in Enterprise. This one wasn't as intensely thought out as the last crime one, and the medical procedural episode we just saw a couple of episodes back. That's the flexibility of Star Trek. You can impose other stuff onto it and still have a successful show. But I know I have to beam you off on the hour. So do me a favor. I posted your link tree. I'll throw those links in the chat again so people can see it. Let me just put a little pin in where I am. We'll go into some comments, and the rest of the panel will give their grades afterwards. But I want Jacob to tell you just who he is and where you can find him. So the link tree comes first. Jacob, you're on. I've got your links covered. Go ahead.
All right, thank you for having me on. It was glad you had me on. So yeah, my channel is Jacob Ironside, and I cover old movies, some up into the 2000 time, and older, like from the 50s and 40s. So yeah, that's what I do. And this Tuesday, I'll be going over the movie The Addams Family, and then I will be on Roman of the Empire's channel talking our favorite werewolf movie. So yeah, that's
Wolf?
what I got coming up. No, any werewolf movie.
Jeremy and I started our day with Teen Wolf. It was a traumatizing experience.
Yes.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on. One last quick question. If you were in a foxhole on a planet, say Cestus 3, and there's some hostile Gorn out there, they're coming for you. There's some hostile Gorn, Jacob. You can have one Star Trek character from any iteration of legitimate Star Trek with you. Who do you have in that foxhole with you to help you fight off the Gorn or to fight out your last moments with?
Worf.
That's a great choice. It's a great choice. That, I believe, was also my choice. I chose that I would want to have another warrior with me so I could go out in a way that would make it worthy of a song. Like I had a Tolkien outlook on. I was like, well, it's the last stand time. We have to think about Tolkien here. I didn't think of the possibility of like some people have had great ideas.
The attitude of today is a good day to die. You might survive.
You might. I think the highest chance is dual wielding Data.
Ah, there you go.
And you know what
I would rather have Ensign Sweeney.
Oh yeah, you know what, we may see her on the show later. I have to put together like a non-Star Trek beginning for my show, but with that, we've reached the witching hour for Jacob, and I want to thank you. Before you go, just I'll take up one more minute of your time to say, you've been one of the coolest people on YouTube to me. You're one of the kindest creators. You have been nothing but supportive. That group of creators that I'm in with you, everyone is so nice to each other. There's so much retweeting going on. And we're showing that creators with independent visions can go forward together. I thank you for enabling that. And I thank you for exposing me to a lot of people and bringing me on your channel a couple of times. I really thank you a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's always good to have you on, and look forward to having you on in the future too.
I'll hold you to regretting that comment, but thank you so much, really, for being here. And right. I'm so glad to have you on. And like I said, I've trying to respect your schedule. So with that, I have to stay on brand. So I'm gonna beam you out. You ready?
All righty. Later.
All right. I've set coordinates on the planet below. Thank you so much, Jacob. And guys, check him out. He's just the best. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know if StreamYards is making the beaming sound. Can everyone else hear it but me?
I could hear it.
Yep. Yeah, we can hear it.
It's taking me out of the experience. I'm going to leave and come back. I want to be able to hear the beaming sounds. It kind of affects my producing because then I have to like trigger Arnold and stuff like that. And if I can't hear him, that just messes everything up. I'll be right back. Whoa! Right. Hold down the fort for me.
Speaking of which.
Yeah. Well, there he is. So now my actual thoughts on the episode. There we go. So yeah, I do not like this episode. I feel like it's a significant step down from the trajectory of the show leading up to this. And since these episodes are tied in more in a series from what we're usually accustomed to in Star Trek, with the exception of maybe the Dominion War with Deep Space Nine, I think that if you're able to judge these in retrospect to the 2 or 3 weeks before, right? And this is a step down. I already said it. I do not like the way that the Vulcans are written here. They have an emotional, irrational response to something that was their own fault that I do not believe that they would ever do. When I look at their actions and I look at Spock, I do not think these are the same species. So I cannot give this episode a high grade. Also getting captured the way they were and not being able to be beamed out immediately was dumb. I think this whole thing was much too contrived. I just wish that I could forget this episode. So I give this a D+.
A D+, which is the same size they padded T'Pol up to for the episode.
Well, yes.
All right, JT, back to his Russian judge ways, holding up like yes. Yeah, everyone else gives it a 10.0, and let's see what the Russian 4.3. Okay, you know what? Resolute Germ was here for the whole watch party. He saw the whole thing. Give us your thoughts. What did you think of this exciting episode of Star Trek Enterprise?
Well, compared to the normal trend we got, it is a small step down, but not too much. It's not as good as last week's episode, which was fantastic. We had the Klingons, but these random freedom fighters are almost as good. We needed a little bit of action and a little bit of levity. Dear Doctor is going to take a good chunk of time for them to be able to get as serious as they were before. So a good, solid bit of action. We got Jeffrey Combs, which is always fun. He definitely deserves a full-time role on a future show. I know that's been a long-term goal of his. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, though. Shran was fun.
Unfortunately, unless we return to that time frame with a Star Trek show or recast him as yet someone else, he can't do it, right? Star Trek's not in good hands. Jacob gave this one an A. JT gave this one a D+. So this is nothing if not divisive. Where are you with this one, Resolute Germ? You want to give this one a grade? Back it up a little.
I have to concur with Jacob. This is a solid A. Entertaining. The story made sense. The characters for the time frame they're in, compared to the TOS and the TNG time frame, they're acting well within the parameters they should be. And all in all, solid A from everybody.
I would agree with you on a lot of that. I have been enjoying this episode since I first saw it. It is fun. It is light. It is not overly heavy. It's not waving a finger at me. It's not moralizing. I've seen so much bad Star Trek and so much bad acting and so much bad stuff in Star Trek shows that I'm willing to overlook some of these flaws that are legitimate and that have been mentioned by other people. But at the same time, I also saw fun and adventure done a little bit better last week. I'm going to give it a B+. I think it's a B+. It's not an A. It's not an A+. It's not a regular B because we had fun. It's a B+. What were the things that made it a B+? The set was a little crappy. It was a little crappy. The fact that we were saving money was obvious here and there. We had the Vulcans in a place that was still confusing. The show had not rectified its view of Vulcans yet or justified it. Whether or not they ever rectified it is a judgment that we all have to make, but they haven't given us enough to go on why we're seeing these strange things. And this is what I forgot to ask Jacob, if he thought that hanging out with the humans was maybe changing the Vulcans. Because what we saw here is exactly what JT said. The Vulcans, they act with a little spite. They act with a little arrogance. They act with a little bit of high-handedness. They're looking down on the humans.
Right.
And
it was their fault the whole time.
We don't call them out for running like a prison planet or whatever you want to call it. They get to keep on doing that.
Yeah, I cannot get over how bad the Vulcans were messing up with hiding that military installation behind a religious site and then having all this shocked face when it gets revealed and then trying to blame it on the humans. Like the Andorians would have found that eventually. They'd been there, 3 times before? 4 times before? So this is finally the time that they actually find it, and now it's the humans' fault? No, please.
And also, everywhere we go,
Spock would have never had the personality to try to come back on the humans for that, or do this in the first place.
Then again, Spock
was very unique.
And as Dr. McCoy likes to point out, Spock was, as he says, half human.
Okay, Tuvok wouldn't have done it either. The assholes on the baseball team in Deep Space Nine wouldn't have done it either.
Tim Russ is half. I'm not taking that any further.
Yeah, there you go.
What, right. Guys, do not follow Tim Russ on Twitter. And thanks for joining us.